Hello everyone and Happy New Year. We are excited to greet you for the first time this year. To kick off the year with fresh energy, we have young people joining us on today's show. The peace agenda between Armenia and Azerbaijan remains a top priority. And today we will discuss the valuable contributions of young people from both countries to this ongoing process. Allow me to introduce our guests. Ms. Eleonora Sarkisyan, a peace trainer and youth worker from Armenia, who is joining us via Skype. Eleonora, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for the invitation.
And Mr. Eldar Hamzali, a researcher specializing in South Caucasus issues, currently here in our Baku studio. Eldar, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
This program is part of a joint initiative between the Baku and Yerevan press clubs titled Expanding Substantive, Diverse and In-Depth Dialogue Between Armenian and Azerbaijani Societies. Our team conducted a small vox pop with young people in Baku on this topic. Let's take a look at their insights, then we will start our discussion.
Our youth should be actively engaged in diaspora organizations abroad, as diasporas play a crucial role in such matters. The greater the involvement of Azerbaijani youth, the more beneficial it will be for our country. Full engagement is essential for initiatives like this. Decisions concerning peace and its disruption are made by governments. Consequently, civil society structures must initiate peace-building efforts independently and in a public format, free from government influence. A free environment and individual liberty are critical for this process. Our country's national and moral values should serve as a model for all young people abroad. With our rich culture and status as the largest country in the region, we have significant opportunities to present ourselves as a nation committed to peace. In this regard, our authority is limited. Currently, the opinions of young people are often overlooked, particularly in peace-building efforts. But there are still actions we can take. On social media, young people can share more educational and awareness-raising content in this direction. Compared to old generations, today's youth are far more active on social platforms.
Okay, this was our small vox pop, and we already introduced the position of some group of Azerbaijani young regarding to our topic, youth in peace building. Eleonora, I would like to start with you. What are the challenges in communication and interaction between Armenian and Azerbaijani youth? Because the main issue lies in the fact that older generations had interactions before the conflict and retained some positive memories of one another. But the youth, however, lack such experiences. Most Armenian youth have never interacted with Azerbaijanians and vice versa. They have only heard or read about each other as very bad or dangerous people. Decades of mutual antagonism have been instilled in them, and now discussions suddenly emerge about peace, cooperation, and even friendship in some cases. How can young people overcome this barrier and actively engage in peace building? Or am I perhaps exaggerating and such a barrier does not exist? Are they more pragmatic, open to the world, and simply need a clear path and opportunities? Please.
Good afternoon. Thanks once again for the invitation and for the question. I think around the globe, generally young people face similar barriers while doing their efforts towards peacemaking. But also we have some very specific, region-specific, and especially Armenia and Azerbaijan-specific challenges that young people face towards peacemaking. One of them is a very simple one, that the conflict is very recent and the trauma is very fresh. And so emotions are still there, anger is there, distrust is there, demonized perceptions of each other is there. And having this on one hand, young people also lack in having some safe platforms and constant interaction points and platforms to, meet with each other, talk to each other, see each other in person because of objective reasons, which that I could draw from our experience during our peacemaking projects and peace work, that interaction is the key in breaking the stereotypes around each other, dismantling the national biases that we have around each other, and generally, kickstarting this de-demonization process.
Eldar, the same question to you, but I would like to hear your researcher, how to say, approach, because you did some research regarding to this case. What is the result or what kind of expectations? Please.
Well, in peace building, as a research study in academia, so in all academic papers, let's say, they confirm that the youth has a crucial role in promoting the peace between the countries or within the countries. And they gave several reasons for that, and one of them is that as they are young, they are forward-looking people. So they are looking for future, and for that reason, they are always prone to, they're always more inclined to reconciliation. They're more inclined to building something, building the future, rather than looking back to history. So it's overall how they assess the role of the youth in the peace building. But in the case of Azerbaijan and Armenia, yes, there are several differences, different from the other parts of the world. The first is that, as you mentioned, that Azerbaijan is an Armenian youth. Today, the people whom we consider youth, most of them born after the independence, and those people, they never had a chance of contact with the Armenians, and they raised through the textbooks, schools, and the media, and what is happening on the ground, the reality. And with these realities, we have the youth both in Azerbaijan and Armenia who consider the other side as an enemy country, as an adversary. So for that reason, it's a natural process that happened due to this, what happened in the last 30 years. And today, as you mentioned, a peace agenda emerged, and well, now we are talking about a peace. So since we talked about the peace, then the question arises, what kind of role those youth could play? The first, I would like to say that even though they didn't have any kind of contact before, but in the last few years with the widespreading of the social media among the youth, so literally everybody uses the social media, but the youth, they use it more than the other part of the society, and those people, they have a chance to interact with the other groups, I mean, with the people from Armenia. Let's say that the example, the average Azerbaijani now have a chance to see the opinions of the Armenian people on different social media. And even I can give several examples that there is, as far as I know, one Armenian girl who lives in Turkey. She started her Instagram page, and she was promoting about Azerbaijan, Armenian, and Turkish relations, and she was kind of teaching Armenian language as well and talking about different topics. She became a kind of a bridge between those people, and that's true that she received so much hate comments from both sides, but what she is doing is presenting herself to the Azerbaijani community. Or we have Facebook groups that Azerbaijanis, Armenians, they are interacting in the same group, they share a topic and then discuss it. So from that perspective, there's being lack of so that Azerbaijanis and Armenian youth, that they never met each other before, it was their, how to say, obstacle for the peace. But this social media and internet is a kind of tool that we could overcome it, and those people can communicate now through this social media tools, and this create a basis for the future peace, that they could interact in a real settings.
But as I know, there were huge amount of projects before 2020 war, when Armenian and Azerbaijani youth came together and did some projects together. So is it possible to rebuild the old atmosphere again? What do you think? Elena, with you, yes, please.
If I may also refer to the previous question once again, I totally agree with what Eldar suggested. I just think there is one more specific aspect of peace building here in the region, and especially in Armenia. And on the example of the girl who's kind of making bridges around the Armenians, Azerbaijani and Turkish people, is that girl is being targeted. And the reason for her to be more targeted than she would be on average is that the concept of peace in Armenia is very political right now, is very politicized. And it is more politicized than any other human rights related concept or value, is starting from minorities' rights, ending to, gender issues. Peace is the most political value right now. And any individual, any group, any organization that's supporting peace, that's doing some peace building projects and activities, is being targeted because of being supposed to be supporting pro-government, being political, having political motives and supporting pro-governmental powers. And what's concerning to the second question, whether we can have the previous atmosphere that we had before, I have actually started being involved in peace building after right at 2020, a bit earlier than the war started. So I'm not very, very aware how the atmosphere was. But one thing that I know for sure is that there are no shortcuts in peacemaking. And we have to be very cautious, move very slow, and be very patient, because if we don't do so, we might have the backfire effect, and it might cause the opposite effect. And I'm sure we have some examples in the back of our minds when we were not so slow, when we, initiated meetings of each other, and it kind of backfired. So I think, yes, we need to, to come as role models, to advocate for peace building, to do all the projects that we're doing with some, specific aspects. But we also have to be very, we have to show very sensitive and fine approaches. Especially, I think it is very different working with young people who are living in Yerevan and in surrounding regions than it is to work with the young people who are living in border communities, and especially young people who are coming from refugee communities, because they have seen the conflict firsthand.
Okay, what initiatives exist to foster dialogue between Armenian and Azerbaijani youth? Because yes, you gave one example regarding to the lady who is living in the Turkey, but in general, what kind of initiatives? Let's talk about it, please.
Well, regarding this, the overall this, we say that the youth, they have a potential for promoting the peace, but in our region now, for the peace, the decision makers, they are the politicians. So we have to take into consideration what is the political reality we have. And
Okay.
within this political reality, the youth can promote the agreed peace. So for that reason, I believe we have to understand what is peace. I mean, what we mean by saying peace in Azerbaijan-Armenian context.
You mean current political situation, yes, as I understand, to take into the account, into
Yes.
consideration, the political situation, then move based on it, yes?
Yeah, so the thing is that the question you mentioned before, the peace building initiative before 2020. Well, the problem regarding with the pre-2020 peace building was that there was no common understanding of the peace. So that there was a peace projects, people were just attending this events, some of them calling themselves as a peace builder, but there was a problem with the definition of the peace because there was no agreed definition of the peace. There was a peace understanding. There was a different peace for Armenians and different peace for Azerbaijanis. So when those people, when they meet in Europe or in Tbilisi, let's say, they all the participants, they say that yes, I want peace, I'm pro-peace, but the main question always missed in that meetings, and the question was that, what is peace? What do you mean by saying peace? At that time, the peace for Armenian participants, let's say, the peace was the status quo, but for the Azerbaijanis, the peace was returning the territories. And for that reason, so the people who were attending in these meetings for years, when the conflict again broke out, when the war broke out, all those people kind of turned to different personalities, and there was a kind of debates during and right after the war that what happened to those peace builders that they have worked in this field, they have participated dozens of meetings, and when the conflict again just flared up, so where those people disappear. So that is the one element of the peace building, that the post-2020 peace building that we are speaking about now. It should be very clear, so we should find a common definition for the peace, what we mean, and I believe this will be what is written in the peace agreement that everybody is waiting to be signed. And after this, this peace that is agreed between Azerbaijan and Armenian governments, then it will be a product that the youth can promote it. Because, you know, promoting the peace is like selling a product. So you should know all the details of your product, and then when you go to the people, they ask you a lot of questions, and you should answer them.
Okay, Eleonora, what do you think about Eldar's insight? Also, I have additional question. Have you seen or heard any successful initiatives after 2020? Please.
Thank you. So concerning what kind of projects are now being done around peace building, there are a lot of questions. Short answer is that there are a lot of projects being done. One interesting aspect that I've noticed that we have progress on is that maybe before 2020, the projects were mainly being facilitated by a third party, where, you know, Azerbaijani and Armenian young people, or generally people, would meet, and it is facilitated by, for example, German people. And we have progress here that now there are initiatives and projects planned only by two parties, where Azerbaijani and Armenian people meet by their own motives and without any third party involved. We have different peace building projects funded by different countries, including United Nations, and I have had some takeaways around these times from these projects and specific, you know, success points, how to make peace work successful for young people. And one of them is very specific to one of the projects that we're implementing, is that we are approaching to peace work less politicized than what Eldar was, you know, referring to, because young people can, because at any given moment, young people can have a lot of disagreements with the status quo. And if, you know, Azerbaijani people had disagreements with the status quo before 2020, a lot of young people and adults can have disagreements with the status quo that we have now. What we can do now is to, you know, promote and protect the concept of peace, regardless of the political or geopolitical motives of geopolitical, you know, reality that we have. We can, you know, support and empower youth to prioritize peace despite the reality that we have now. And basically what we're doing with one of our projects is we're bringing the concept of peace to interpersonal level, to one-to-one, to, you know, oneself's level. And this has, you know, given us access to target more young people and bring them to the project than we would have if we kind of promoted the project as regional peace building, because these young people otherwise would have been more reluctant to be involved. And this way, so we can involve more young people. Another aspect we've kind of noticed that one of my Azerbaijani colleagues is also sharing, that's part of the program, is that it is easier for young people to dismantle national biases that we have around each other when we have dismantled other biases that we have, for example, gender biases, or, you know, different kind of biases. So we're creating access points, how we can more easily access the, you know, regional and political peace. Another key aspect that I've mentioned already is that interaction is the key. After, you know, in-person interactions, young people are coming back from the peace camps or whatever, peace trainings, and they're coming back with totally new perceptions and broken stereotypes about each other. So I think what we can do to support this process is create as many safe platforms for young people to meet each other as possible.
Eldar, what about your experience regarding any successful initiatives? Could you share the details, or what steps can be taken to ensure their success?
Well, so I believe the difference between our approach with Eleanor, it lays on the point that the peace camps and the peace events regarding the, you know, overall concept on the peace. I have participated in some of them, and then so the first thing is that I'm in this field, in this peace building initiatives and the peace building peace events, let's say the dialogue events, more I will call them. I've participated in them since 2013. So for that reason, during these years, I have, so this, I see so how the events from a status quo raised to, in 2016, raised to the 4-day war, and then calmed down, and then again 2020 and all. So I observed all this, and I see that the Azerbaijanians and Armenians, they don't have any kind of disagreement on the how to say, on the concept of the peace. So they all take it. So the people I have participated together with, so we had a good discussions, and very constructive discussions with each other, and we didn't have any kind of disagreements on the concept of the peace. But when we come back and when the reality raise up, so that is, let's say the 2020 war raise up, then all have dismantled, because we have discussed concept of the peace, but not the peace between Azerbaijanis and Armenians. So for that reason, for a successful peace building initiative, for a successful process, as I have mentioned, we have to define what we mean by saying peace. So what kind of product we want to promote. And after this, I believe that so the Azerbaijanis and Armenians in a not in the long term, but in a few years, they will manage to overcome some of the biases they have against each other, because we have examples of the Azerbaijanis and Armenians. They coexist in different parts of the world. So we can give examples of some villages in Georgia. They even live in the same village in a harmony. So for that reason, I believe we don't have that much obstacles in the field of dialogue between the people. So the people are, I believe, quite open-minded in terms of this. But the problem lays on, on the kickoff. So we need a good kickoff. That, I believe, it will be the peace agreement that will be signed between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And then we will see that things becomes much easier than today regarding talking about the peace, regarding talking about the common future, because it's a small region. It's less than just 17 million people in the whole region. And we know that we live in this region, nobody would leave the region. So for that reason, people have a common sense in terms of this topic. They understand that. And so for that reason, I believe that it's very important to define the peace and then promoting the defined peace, agreed peace, let's say. The agreed goes by Azerbaijanis and Armenians, because when I go, let's say, to home and promote the peace, talks about the peace, and I will naturally receive a question. So do you believe that your Armenian counterpart think in the same way as you think? And if the answer is yes, then there is a trust that, okay, we have a one peace, and we promote it in both societies. But if I would answer no, or I'm not sure, then I don't believe that, so not much people would buy it.
Okay, it was really very interesting comparison of 2020 and after 2020. Now I would like to ask a question about post-2020. What platforms, Eleonora, can be created to facilitate communication between Azerbaijani and Armenian youth?
I believe there are quite several platforms that facilitate Armenian and Azerbaijani young people's interactions. One of them is very popular, Crossroads, created by, if I'm not wrong, Azerbaijani person, and is functioning already several years. And thousands of people are involved, and they're discussing different topics with each other, which is a very good example of safe platform where people can interact. I myself have created in 2020 a platform, Peace Talks, where I intended to involve Armenian and Azerbaijani people to have discussions around the topic of peace and to settle common ground for it. But it kind of did not include as many people as I would expect. Different projects, in frames of different projects, there are being created platforms where young people can access. For example, we have online peace dialogue platform, which is doing monthly calls between Armenian, Azerbaijani, and Georgian youth who are discussing human rights related topics every month. This is what I know around the platforms.
Okay. Vklad, please, the same question to you.
Well, so as Eleanor just mentioned, I believe just on the social media. So the internet gives us the platform,
Big opportunity.
a very big opportunity, and currently, it's a question of whether you use it or not. As she mentioned rightfully, this Crossroad, it's a Facebook group where the Azerbaijanis and Armenians, and I believe, so there are some the other nationalities who lives in the region. They're also member of this group, and they have I believe they have their rules of discussions, and then they successfully interact with each other there. And so this is the potential of the internet, that any people, any group of society can create a group and interact there. Or I know there is a one, it's about more about the old generation. There is just a website that is called Old Baku. So that's about the history of the Baku, and in that, and they have their own platform there where they discuss some issues. And I see some Armenians, some Georgians, some Jewish, Azerbaijanis, they interact there as old Bakuvians. So, which means that people from different groups can create such groups and interact there. So it's what the internet gives this opportunity, a huge opportunity. Everybody who is intent to, they can interact there. But regarding this, the dialogue meetings, the physical meetings that organized, so it's more about, it's a funding relating thing.
Okay.
So if there are more funding, more will by the two countries, then we can see more and more dialogue meetings, which I believe help the young people to overcome their concept of enemy. So because I have personally witnessed the cases when there's Azerbaijanis and Armenians for the first time they meet, they even ask permission to touch each other to see that if they're a real human being or not. You know, they're surprised from a very basic things when they hear that the other side also is using the same shampoo brand. So it's something very interesting to see their first interaction.
It's always possible to find something common.
Yeah, always. It's easier. And based on my observation, I believe that in this trilateral meetings between Azerbaijanis, Armenians, and Georgians, so in most cases, the Georgians, they have fun with themselves, so they are together with their Georgian friends, and Azerbaijanis and Armenians, they create a noise kind of, meetings. So they chat, they discuss, they make jokes. So for that reason, I believe that if we have this strong kickoff, after this, the process will be smooth.
Okay. How can, Eleonora, what do you think? How can youth participation in decision-making process related to peace building be ensured? How can their opinions be effectively taken into account?
Yeah, this was one question I wanted to address as well. I just want to also slightly disagree with what Eldar suggested around that peace building is revolving around the political agenda, and if there is political will, political agreements, then people will follow it. Because this might be true to some extent, but if we kind of recall the events in 2023, when Karabakh Armenians left Karabakh, there was no political urge to do so, yet people left the place because they still had that distrust to live side by side with Azerbaijani people. And most importantly, there is stigmatization around people who are involved in peace work, who are, interacting a lot with Azerbaijani people. Even people like me who are, doing peace work are being stigmatized and targeted for that. So I think time is required to, break this stigmatization, break the stereotypes, break the distrust, and, reform the emotions around the conflict and around Azerbaijani people, so that after that, the political agreements and political agenda can kind of already, pave the way. Regarding the question, which I would like you to repeat.
Yes, decision-making process, youth participation, and how can their opinions be effectively taken into account?
Yeah, I think this is very important. Also, one of the young people from the initial video mentioned that we as civil society are doing a lot in peacemaking, yet young people are underrepresented in decision-making processes. And I believe when United Nations adopted its Youth Peace and Security Council resolution, after some years of, investigation, they kind of also highlighted this progress report where they said that the core challenge that young people are facing in peacemaking is the fact that they're basically not involved in decision-making processes, not involved in local and national levels governments. And I think this is a very, instrumental aspect of the work. One thing we can do to support young people in this is to, make financial investments on their, on their intelligence on how decision-making processes work, on their empowerment to join local and national governmental organizations, so that they can have effect, to equip them with the skills that they need to, successfully join the organizations and government, to empower them to, to address their agency and confidence that they can affect the processes. Yeah, I think this is what we can do right now. I agree that this is the most important part, and basically this is the challenge, and this shows where we need to focus our efforts.
Eldar, what do you think?
Firstly, I believe this the last, not last year anymore. So what happened in 2023 September? It had a lot of political elements, political wills regarding the people's, let's say, so they left Karabakh. And in the interviews, we easily see this, or the Sarkis Galistyan who stayed there with his wife for some time, and then when he returned, he was arrested. So all this shows that there are political elements in this. So it's not about. So for me, it will be super interesting to see how people would behave if there won't be any kind of political involvement in the process, and how they would react. Because based on my experience, that the people I have met from Karabakh after the last year actually, they say that their parents, the three of them I have talked, and they say that their parents, they confess that they made mistake by just leaving their homes in Karabakh. They said that we have to stay. But for some reason, for some political involvements, they had to leave. And they say that, so we were told to go. Let's put it short, that we were told that we have to go, so for that reason we left. And then someday that because we saw the others are going, so we joined them. So it's a very complicated the case, but I believe that if there would be a human-to-human contact, then we will have a different result, because those people in Karabakh, they had experience to live with Azerbaijanis. So this is the
decision-making process of youth.
So the youth in the decision-making process. Well, I'm not, how to say, for both Azerbaijan and Armenia, this Karabakh conflict, this process, a former Karabakh conflict, let's say, this issue is existential. The Azerbaijanis take it existential, and Armenians naturally takes it existential. So for that reason, everybody is very cautious on this topic. So when they become more cautious, then the area given to the youth in the decision making, it becomes shrinked. So the smaller area becomes available for the youth to participate in the decision making. And I believe we see this trend both in Azerbaijan and Armenian case, that all the dialogues, all the discussions, meetings are going on a political level. And when the youth meet on dialogue meetings, their discussions also are going around the products produced from these political meetings. They discuss these topics. So what is discussed on the political level. So when the youth are meeting, they also go through these topics, through these narratives. And it's natural because the political reality is a reality. It's on the ground. And so for that reason, I'm not, how to say, I can't say that if we give the youth more space, they would make the peace quicker. I can't say this at this point because both societies takes this issue very seriously. And for that reason, again, I back to this peace agreement, that we should have some kind of the agreement between the two countries, and then you can promote it from a different perspectives, that how this peace can enable, can promote, contribute to our daily life, how it can promote our economy, how it can promote the education, health, to the future of Armenia or Azerbaijan. Because we all know that just after the peace agreement, so many changes would happen. You know, in the case of Armenia, for example, Armenian-Turkish border may get reopened again. Or with Azerbaijan, they might start have relations. And all those affects the people's life on the ground who lives on the border, let's say, with Turkey. So their life would be changed. And after this, yes, youth people can promote the peace, and when they go to these villages to promote the peace, let's say, and when the villagers ask
after
them,
all, the opinions be effectively taken into account. Yeah?
Yes, and their role becomes crucial, because now it's very political issue. You know, still it's very political. So, for example, the discussions are going in Washington, Brussels, some voices from Moscow. Everybody is interested in what is happening, and that is not a crucial topic for the region, for Azerbaijan and Armenia, but for the world. Everybody is now talks about the possible peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia. There's, for example, the American elected President-elect Donald Trump. His team speaks about that we come to power and we will bring the peace to the world. And there are some hot points in the world. The one is, and the easiest one is Azerbaijan and Armenian. The other one is Ukraine. Another one is Israel, Palestine. So those topics are very important for the world.
Okay.
For this Karabakh, not Karabakh, but Azerbaijan and Armenian peace, let's say.
Thank you very much, guys. I think I'm done with my questions, but if you want to add something, I can give you floor. Eleonora, would you like to add something?
I think I just wanted to also say that I don't put so much pressure on the peace agreement that is hopefully going to be signed, because I believe that peace is at least half as social and human-centered issue as it is on papers. And I believe that people who are, right now keeping discreet the fact that their they have joined the peace building activities. They're keeping this discreet from their families even, are not, magically going to, make this public when in, for example, the April peace agreement is going to be signed. So I think this is a bit more complex than only on papers. And also, I just want to say that this is not something one organization or one or two people can achieve. It is a collective effort on all levels of the society. So we need to focus on, mobilizing all levels of the society.
Okay, thank you very much, Eldar. Your last insight, final insights?
Not insight, but just as I said earlier, youth have very huge potential. I believe that they would foster the peace between Azerbaijan and Armenian, and not in a long term, in a quite surprisingly short period of time they will promote it. I expect this. So for that reason, I wish we'll achieve the peace soon in the region, because this region needs this peace, and they deserve it, I believe, because after so much pain and blood, we need to have a peace.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Eleanor Sarkisyan, a peace trainer and youth worker from Armenia, and Eldar Hamzali, researcher in Baku, in Azerbaijan. This program is part of a joint initiative between the Baku and Yerevan press clubs titled Expanding Substantive, Diverse and In-Depth Dialogue Between Armenian and Azerbaijani Societies. Bye and see you.
Thank you.